Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Lay aside, abandon, or leave for another. The act of changing one thing or position for another. Move sideways or in an unsteady way. Move around. Change place or direction. The time period during which you are at work. Geology. A crack in the Earth's crust resulting from the displacement of one side with respect to the other. Make a shift in or exchange of. Move abruptly. A loose-fitting dress hanging straight from the shoulders without a waist. An event in which something is displaced without rotation. The key on the typewriter keyboard that shifts from lowercase letters to uppercase letters. The act of moving from one place to another. His constant shifting disrupted the class. A qualitative change. Move very slightly. He shifted in his seat. A woman's sleeveless undergarment. A crew of workers who work for a specific period of time. Change gears. You have to shift when you go down a steep hill. Change in quality. His tone shifted. Change phonetically as part of a systematic historical change. Grimm showed how the consonants shifted. Move in exchange for another. Shift the date for our class reunion. Move from one setting or context to another. Shift the emphasis. Use a shift key on a keyboard. She could not shift, so all her letters are written in lowercase. Lay aside, abandon, or leave for another. The car changed lanes. Cause to change, make different, cause a transformation. The discussion has changed my thinking about the issue. Exchange or replace with another, usually of the same kind or category. He changed his name. An event that occurs when something passes from one state or phase to another. The change was intended to increase sales. Become different in some particular way, without permanently losing one's or its former characteristics or essence. Her mood changes in accordance with the weather. Give to, and receive from, one another. Would you change places with me? Become deeper in tone. His voice began to change when he was 12 years old. Change from one vehicle or transportation line to another. She changed in Chicago on her way to the East Coast. A difference that is usually pleasant. It is a refreshing change to meet a woman mechanic. A different or fresh set of clothes. She brought a change in her overnight bag. A relational difference between states, especially between states before and after some event. He attributed the change to their marriage. A thing that is different. He inspected several changes before selecting one. Change clothes. Put on different clothes. Coins of small denomination regarded collectively. He had a pocketful of change. Money received in return for its equivalent in a larger denomination or a different currency. He got change for a 20 and used it to pay the taxi driver. Remove or replace the coverings of. Father had to learn how to change the baby. The action of changing something. The change of government had no impact on the economy. The balance of money received when the amount you tender is greater than the amount due. I paid with a 20 and pocketed the change. The result of alteration or modification. There were marked changes in the lining of the lungs. Undergo a change. Become different in essence, losing one's or its original nature. She changed completely as she grew older. Lay aside, abandon, or leave for another. Switch to a different brand of beer. Control consisting of a mechanical or electrical or electronic device for making or breaking or changing the connections in a circuit. Reverse, a direction, attitude, or course of action. Cause to go on or to be engaged or set in operation. Switch on the light. The act of changing one thing or position for another. His switch on abortion cost him the election. An event in which one thing is substituted for another. Make a shift in or exchange of. First Joe led, then we switched. Exchange or give something in exchange for. Change over, change around, as to a new order or sequence. A basketball maneuver. Two defensive players shift assignments so that each guards the player usually guarded by the other. A flexible implement used as an instrument of punishment. Flog with or as if with a flexible rod. Hairpiece consisting of a tress of false hair, used by women to give shape to a coiffure. Railroad track having two movable rails and necessary connections, used to turn a train from one track to another or to store rolling stock. The act of changing one thing or position for another. Move sideways or in an unsteady way. The ship careened out of control. Pitching dangerously to one side. Walk as if unable to control one's movements. A combat between two mounted knights tilting against each other with blunted lances. Move sideways or in an unsteady way. Pitching dangerously to one side. Heel over. The tower is tilting. A contentious speech act. A dispute where there is strong disagreement. The property possessed by a line or surface that departs from the vertical. The tower had a pronounced tilt. To incline or bend from a vertical position. A slight but noticeable partiality. The court's tilt toward conservative rulings. Charge with a tilt. Move sideways or in an unsteady way. Tremble or shake. His voice wobbled with restrained emotion. Move unsteadily. His knees wobbled. An unsteady rocking motion. Transfer from one place or period to another. Transfer somebody to a different position or location of work. The act of moving something from one location to another. Application of a skill learned in one situation to a different but similar situation. Move around. Transfer the packet from his trouser pockets to a pocket in his jacket. Transferring ownership. Change from one vehicle or transportation line to another. The act of transferring something from one form to another. The transfer of the music from record to tape suppressed much of the background noise. Someone who transfers or is transferred from one position to another. The best student was a transfer from LSU. Send from one person or place to another. Lift and reset in another soil or situation. Shift the position or location of, as for business, legal, educational, or military purposes. A ticket that allows a passenger to change conveyances. Cause to change ownership. I transferred my stock holdings to my children. Move from one place to another. Transfer the data. Remove or force out from a position. The dentist dislodged the piece of food that had been stuck under my gums. Change place or direction. Remove or force from a position of dwelling previously occupied. The new employee dislodged her by moving into her office space. Depositing in a warehouse. They decided to reposition their furniture in a recommended repository in Brooklyn. Change place or direction. Place into another position. The time period during which you were at work. The time period during which you were at work. Tennis. A score consisting of winning a game when your opponent was serving. He was up 2 breaks in the second set. Breaking of hard tissue such as bone. The break seems to have been caused by a fall. Enter someone's virtual or real property in an unauthorized manner, usually with the intent to steal or commit a violent act. Be released or become known, of news. Fail to agree with, be in violation of, as of rules or patterns. An act of delaying or interrupting the continuity. It was presented without commercial breaks. Lessen in force or effect. Break a fall. An escape from jail. The breakout was carefully planned. Interrupt a continued activity. Force out or release suddenly and often violently something pent up. Break into tears. Any frame in which a bowler fails to make a strike or spare. The break in the 8th frame cost him the match. Go to pieces. Ruin completely. Act in disregard of laws, rules, contracts, or promises. Break a law. Become fractured. Break or crack on the surface only. Do a break dance. Kids were break dancing at the street corner. Prevent completion. Break off the negotiations. Become separated into pieces or fragments. Make known to the public information that was previously known only to a few people or that was meant to be kept a secret. Terminate. Break a lucky streak. Surpass in excellence. Break a record. Discontinue an association or relation. Go different ways. The act of breaking something. The breakage was unavoidable. Happen. Break down, literally or metaphorically. A pause from doing something, as work. We took a 10-minute break. Stop operating or functioning. Fracture a bone of. Reduce to bankruptcy. My daughter's fancy wedding is going to break me. Assign to a lower position. Reduce in rank. Geology. A crack in the Earth's crust resulting from the displacement of one side with respect to the other. Break a piece from a hole. Break a branch from a tree. Make submissive, obedient, or useful. The horse was tough to break. A time interval during which there is a temporary cessation of something. Move away or escape suddenly. Nobody can break out, this prison is high security. A personal or social separation, as between opposing factions. They hoped to avoid a break in relations. Some abrupt occurrence that interrupts an ongoing activity. There was a break in the action when a player was hurt. Destroy the completeness of a set of related items. The book dealer would not break the set. Cease an action temporarily. Let's break for lunch. An unexpected piece of good luck. He finally got his big break. An abrupt change in the tone or register of the voice, as at puberty or due to emotion. Then there was a break in her voice. A sudden dash. He made a break for the open door. Be broken in. If the new teacher won't break, we'll add some stress. Become punctured or penetrated. Cause the failure or ruin of. This play will either make or break the playwright. Cause to give up a habit. Change directions suddenly. Change suddenly from one tone quality or register to another. Come forth or begin from a state of latency. Come into being. Come to an end. Crack. Of the male voice in puberty. His voice is breaking, he should no longer sing in the choir. Curl over and fall apart in surf or foam, of waves. Destroy the integrity of, usually by force, cause to separate into pieces or fragments. Diminish or discontinue abruptly. Emerge from the surface of a body of water. Exchange for smaller units of money. I had to break a $100 bill just to buy the candy. Fall sharply. Find a flaw in. Break an alibi. Find the solution or key to. Break the code. Give up. Break cigarette smoking. Happen or take place. Things have been breaking pretty well for us in the past few months. Interrupt the flow of current in. Break a circuit. Invalidate by judicial action. Make a rupture in the ranks of the enemy or one's own by quitting or fleeing. Make the opening shot that scatters the balls. Pierce or penetrate. Render inoperable or ineffective. Scatter or part. Separate from a clinch, in boxing. The occurrence of breaking. The break in the dam threatened the valley. The opening shot that scatters the balls in billiards or pool. Undergo breaking. Vary or interrupt a uniformity or continuity. Weaken or destroy in spirit or body. A wrong action attributable to bad judgment or ignorance or inattention. I could understand his English in spite of his grammatical faults. An imperfection in an object or machine. The quality of being inadequate or falling short of perfection. He knew his own faults much better than she did. Geology. A crack in the Earth's crust resulting from the displacement of one side with respect to the other. They built it right over a geological fault. Put or pin the blame on. Electronics. Equipment failure attributable to some defect in a circuit, loose connection or insulation failure or short circuit, etc. It took much longer to find the fault than to fix it. Responsibility for a bad situation or event. It was John's fault. Sports. A serve that is illegal, e.g., that lands outside the prescribed area. He served too many double faults. Geology. A crack in the Earth's crust resulting from the displacement of one side with respect to the other. He studied the faulting of the Earth's crust. Breaking of hard tissue such as bone. It was a nasty fracture. Fracture a bone of. Geology. A crack in the Earth's crust resulting from the displacement of one side with respect to the other. The act of cracking something. Become fractured. The tibia fractured from the blow of the iron pipe. Break, a bone. Break into pieces. The pothole fractured a bolt on the axle. Interrupt, break, or destroy. Fracture the balance of power. Violate or abuse. This writer really fractures the language. Geology. A crack in the Earth's crust resulting from the displacement of one side with respect to the other. They built it right over a geological fault. Change from one system to another or to a new plan or policy. Make a shift to in or exchange of. Loiter about, with no apparent aim. Abrupt up and down motion, as caused by a ship or other conveyance. An unsteady, uneven gait. Move abruptly. The ship suddenly lurched to the left. The act of moving forward suddenly. Defeat by a lurch. Walk as if unable to control one's movements. A decisive defeat in a game, especially in cribbage. Move slowly and unsteadily. The truck lurched down the road. Set the level or character of. She pitched her speech to the teenagers in the audience. Any of various dark heavy viscid substances obtained as a residue. Abrupt up and down motion, as caused by a ship or other conveyance. The pitching and tossing was quite exciting. Promotion by means of an argument and demonstration. An all-fours game in which the first card led as a trump. A sports field with predetermined dimensions for playing soccer. Throw or hurl from the mound to the batter, as in baseball. The pitcher delivered the ball. Heel over. Be at an angle. Sell or offer for sale from place to place. Erect and fasten. Pitch a tent. Move abruptly. A high approach shot in golf. Baseball. The act of throwing a baseball by a pitcher to a batter. Degree of deviation from a horizontal plane. The roof had a steep pitch. Throw or toss with a light motion. A vendor's position, especially on the sidewalk. He was employed to see that his paper's news pitches were not trespassed upon by rival vendors. Fall or plunge forward. She pitched over the railing of the balcony. Hit, a golf ball, in a high arc with a backspin. Lead, a card, and establish the trump suit. Set to a certain pitch. He pitched his voice very low. The action or manner of throwing something. His pitch fell short and his hat landed on the floor. The property of sound that varies with variation in the frequency of vibration. A loose-fitting dress hanging straight from the shoulders without a waist. A woman's sleeveless undergarment. An enclosed space. A bag made of paper or plastic for holding customers' purchases. Make as a net profit. The termination of someone's employment, leaving them free to depart. Plunder, a town, after capture. The barbarians sacked Rome. Terminate the employment of. Discharge from an office or position. A hanging bed of canvas or rope netting, usually suspended between two trees, swings easily. A loose-fitting dress hanging straight from the shoulders without a waist. The quantity contained in a sack. A woman's full loose hip-length jacket. Any of various light dry strong white wine from Spain and Canary Islands, including sherry. Put in a sack. The grocer sacked the onions. The plundering of a place by an army or mob usually involves destruction and slaughter. The sack of Rome. Act of taking the place of another, especially using underhanded tactics. The act of uniform movement. To move something from its natural environment. An event in which something is displaced without rotation. Chemistry. A reaction in which an elementary substance displaces and sets free a constituent element from a compound. Act of removing from office or employment. Psychiatry. A defense mechanism that transfers effect or reaction from the original object to some more acceptable one. The key on the typewriter keyboard that shifts from lowercase letters to uppercase letters. Of soil, unstable. Shifting sands. Changing position or direction. He drifted into the shifting crowd. The act of moving from one place to another. His constant shifting disrupted the class. Continuously varying. Taffeta with shifting colors. The act of changing in form or shape or appearance. A qualitative change. A rule describing the conversion of one syntactic structure into another related syntactic structure. Genetics. Modification of a cell or bacterium by the uptake and incorporation of exogenous DNA. Mathematics. A function that changes the position or direction of the axes of a coordinate system. An act that changes the form or character or substance of something. A qualitative change. Physics. The change of one chemical element into another, as by nuclear decay or radioactive bombardment. The transmutation of base metals into gold proved to be impossible. Change the arrangement or position of. Move or cause to move back and forth. Cause to be agitated, excited, or roused. Try to stir up public opinion. Exert oneself continuously, vigorously, or obtrusively to gain an end or engage in a crusade for a certain cause or person. Be an advocate for. Move very slightly. United States tennis player who in 1938 was the first to win the Australian and French and English and United States singles championship in the same year, 1915 to 2000. Move very slightly. Summon into action or bring into existence, often as if by magic. A rapid active commotion. Affect emotionally. A stirring movie. To begin moving. As the thunder started, the sleeping children began to stir. Stir feelings in. Stir emotions. Stir the feelings, emotions, or piece of. A prominent or sensational but short-lived news event. Move very slightly. Emotional agitation and excitement. Mix or add by stirring. Move and implement through. Stir the soup. Tremble or shake. A woman's sleeveless undergarment. An abnormal wobble in a motor vehicle, especially in the front wheels. He could feel the shimmy in the steering wheel. Dance a shimmy. Lively dancing, usually to ragtime music, with much shaking of the shoulders and hips.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.